What if one man, alone in a quiet cave, could change the course of human history? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. A vast desert, endless sand stretching to the horizon. The sun is burning. The wind is strong. Life is hard. Survival is never guaranteed. And in this world full of conflict, injustice, and confusion, there is one man, not a king, not a warrior, not a rich leader, just a man thinking, reflecting, searching for truth. His name is Muhammad. And from this moment, everything begins to change. Welcome to this journey. This is not just a history lesson. This is not just a story. This is a powerful journey through time, a story about faith, patience, struggle, and transformation. And as you listen, something else is happening. You are learning English, not by memorizing rules, not by studying grammar, but by experiencing a story, a real story, one that shaped the lives of more than 1 billion people. As you follow this journey, your brain will naturally absorb new vocabulary, clear sentence structures, natural rhythm and pronunciation. This is one of the most powerful ways to learn a language because stories stay with us. They connect to emotion. They create meaning. So don't rush. Don't try to understand every single word. Just listen. Feel the story. Let the language flow. Are you ready? Let's begin. Before we understand the message, we must understand the world that needed it. Travel back in time more than 1,400 years ago to a place called the Arabian Peninsula. This land was not easy to live in. It was dry, hot, harsh. There were no rivers flowing through the land, no green forests, only vast deserts, strong winds, and endless sand dunes. Life here was a constant struggle. People had to move from place to place, searching for water, searching for food. They were called nomads. In this difficult environment, one thing mattered more than anything else: your tribe, your family, your people. Loyalty to your tribe was everything. It gave you protection. It gave you identity. Without a tribe, you were alone. And in the desert, being alone could mean death. But this strong tribal system also created problems. Tribes often fought each other. Small disagreements could turn into long, violent conflicts. Revenge was common. Peace was rare. Now, let's move to the heart of this world. A city called Mecca. Mecca was different. It was not just a place in the desert. It was a center of trade. Caravans from many lands passed through the city. Merchants brought goods, spices, cloth, gold. Mecca became rich, powerful, important. At the center of Mecca stood a special building, the Kaaba. Long ago, it was built as a place to worship one God, a symbol of unity, a place of peace. But over time, things changed. The Kaaba became filled with idols. Not one, not 10, but hundreds. Each tribe had its own god, its own beliefs, its own traditions. People came to Mecca not only to trade, but also to worship these idols. This made Mecca even more powerful. Religion became business, and with power came corruption. Society in Mecca was deeply unequal. The rich became richer. The poor were ignored. Orphans had no protection. Women had very few rights. Some families even buried their baby daughters because they believed girls had no value. Think about that for a moment. What kind of world is this? A world where strength is more important than justice. A world where money controls belief. A world where the weak are forgotten. People were living, but many were lost. They had traditions. They had rituals. But they had no clear moral direction. And deep inside this world, something was missing. A sense of truth. A sense of purpose. A sense of justice. It was society waiting not for more power, not for more wealth, but for guidance. And soon that guidance would come from a man who would quietly change everything. In this world full of conflict and confusion, a child was born. The year was 570 CE in Mecca. This year would later be known as the Year of the Elephant. Why? Because a powerful army, led by a man named Abraham, marched toward Mecca with elephants planning to destroy the Kaaba. But something unexpected happened. The army was defeated. They never reached their goal. For the people of Mecca, this was a powerful sign. And in that same year, Muhammad was born. But his life did not begin with comfort. It began with loss. His father died before he was born. He never knew him. At the age of 6, he lost his mother. And just 2 years later, his grandfather also passed away. Imagine that. A young boy growing up without parents, without stability, without protection. He was taken care of by his uncle Abu Talib, a kind man, but not a rich one. Life was still difficult. From a very young age, Muhammad learned something important: how to be patient. As a boy, he worked as a shepherd, alone in the desert, watching animals, walking under the sun, spending long hours in silence. This kind of life teaches you things. You learn to observe. You learn to think. You learn to control your emotions. While others were busy with trade, competition, and power, he was learning something deeper: calmness, discipline, reflection. As he grew, older people began to notice him. He was different. He did not lie. He did not cheat. He did not join in the corruption of society. People trusted him, so much that they gave him a special name, Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Think about that. In a society full of conflict and dishonesty, one man became known for truth. At the age of 25, his life changed again. A respected and successful businesswoman named Khadija noticed him. She was impressed by his honesty, his character, his calm strength. She offered him work. Then later she offered him marriage. He accepted, and their marriage became a source of peace in his life. Khadija was not only his wife, she was his partner, his supporter, his safe place in a complicated world. For the first time, Muhammad experienced stability. But even with this peace, something inside him was still searching. Because when he looked at Mecca, he still saw injustice. He still saw people lost in false beliefs. He still saw a society without moral direction. And deep inside, he knew this was not right. So he began to spend more time alone. Not because he wanted to escape life, but because he was searching for truth. And that search would soon lead to a moment that would change not only his life, but the entire world. Even though his life had become more stable, Muhammad was not at peace. Every day, he saw the same problems: injustice, dishonesty, people worshiping idols instead of seeking truth. And slowly these things began to trouble him deeply. Have you ever felt that? When something around you feels wrong, but no one seems to notice. Muhammad felt that every day. So he began to withdraw, not completely from society, but from its noise, its distractions, its confusion. He searched for silence, for clarity, for answers. There was a place he often went to, a cave, the Cave of Hira. It was located on a mountain just outside Mecca, quiet, isolated, far from the busy city. There, he would sit alone for hours, sometimes for days, thinking, reflecting, praying. He was not looking for power. He was not trying to change the world. He was simply searching for truth. And then, at the age of 40, something happened. Something that would change everything. One night, in the cave, he was not alone. An angel appeared. The angel Gabriel. The moment was overwhelming, powerful, terrifying. The angel gave him a command, a simple word: read. But Muhammad replied, "I cannot read." Again, the command came, read. And again, he said, "I cannot read." This happened several times, until finally the message was given, words that would become the beginning of the Quran. In that moment, everything changed, but not in a way you might expect. Muhammad was afraid, deeply shaken, confused. He did not feel powerful. He did not feel ready, not at all. He rushed down the mountain, his heart racing, his body trembling, and he went to the one person he trusted the most, Khadijah. Cover me, he said. He told her everything, what he saw, what he heard, what he felt. And in that moment, Khadijah did something extraordinary. She believed him. Immediately, she did not doubt him. She did not question him. She comforted him. She reassured him. She reminded him of who he was. You are honest. You are kind. You help the poor. You speak the truth. This cannot be something bad. And just like that, she became the first person to believe in his message. Think about how important that is. At the moment of greatest fear, he was not alone. From that moment on, the message began. Simple, clear, powerful. There's only one God, Allah, and people must live with justice, with honesty, with compassion, care for the poor, protect the weak, respect every human being. These ideas may sound normal today, but at that time they were revolutionary because they challenged everything. The idols, the traditions, the power of the wealthy elite in Mecca. And when you challenge power, power pushes back. Slowly at first, then harder. Because this message was not just about belief. It was about change. And change is never easy. What began in silence, inside a quiet cave, was now becoming something much bigger. And soon the world of Mecca would begin to react. At first, the message spread quietly. A few people believed. Close friends, family members, those who saw the truth in his words. But as the message grew, so did the tension. The leaders of Mecca began to worry. Why? Because this new message was dangerous, not with weapons, but with truth. It challenged their power, their wealth, their control over religion. If people stopped worshiping idols, they would stop coming to Mecca for those idols. And that meant less money, less influence, less control. So they decided to stop it. At first, they tried to ignore him. Then they mocked him. Then they insulted him. But when that didn't work, they became more aggressive. They began to attack the followers, not the powerful ones, not the protected ones, but the weak, the poor, the slaves. One of them was a man named Bilal. Bilal was a slave. He had no protection, no tribe to defend him. So they tortured him. They took him into the desert, under the burning sun. They placed heavy stones on his chest. And they told him, leave this belief. But Bilal did not give up. Instead, he repeated the same words. Again and again, one God, even in pain, even in suffering, he remained strong. Think about that. What kind of belief gives a person that strength? The persecution continued. Life became harder for the small Muslim community. Then came a very difficult time, a complete boycott. For 3 years they were cut off from society. No trade, no food, no support. Families suffered. Children cried from hunger, but still they did not give up. Then came an even harder moment, a year known as the Year of Sadness. 2 people who meant everything to Muhammad passed away, his wife, Khadijah, and his uncle, Abu Talib. Khadijah was his emotional support. Abu Talib was his protection. Now he had lost both. Imagine standing alone after losing the 2 people who held your world together. But even then he continued. He went to another city, Taif. He hoped they would listen, that they would understand. But instead they rejected him. Not only rejected, they attacked him. People threw stones. Children chased him. He was injured, bleeding, and still he did not respond with anger. Instead, he prayed. He asked for guidance for them, not punishment. Think about that. This is patience at its highest level. But the situation in Mecca was becoming more dangerous. The leaders were now planning something extreme. They wanted to kill him, so a decision was made to leave Mecca, to migrate. This journey is known as the Hijra. In the year 622 CE, Muhammad and his close companion, Abu Bakr, left the city at night. Quietly, carefully. They were being hunted. At one point, they hid inside a cave. The enemies came close, very close. Abu Bakr was afraid, but Muhammad said something powerful. Do not be afraid. God is with us. And somehow they were not found. They continued their journey and finally reached a new city, Yathrib, a city that would soon be known as Medina. This was not just a journey of escape. It was a turning point. From survival to building something new. From being a small, persecuted group to becoming a strong, united community. And this moment was so important that it became the beginning of the Islamic calendar. A new chapter had begun. But the journey was far from over. When Muhammad arrived in Medina, everything changed. For the first time, he was not running. He was building. Medina was different from Mecca. The people there had heard about him. They were ready. They were open. They were willing to listen. And most importantly, they welcomed him. This welcome was not just polite. It was sincere, deep. The people of Medina became known as the Ansar, the helpers, and those who came from Mecca were called the Muhajirin, the migrants. Two groups, different backgrounds, different lives. But now they had to become one community. So Muhammad did something remarkable. He did not begin with power. He did not begin with control. He began with unity. He created bonds between people, brotherhood, support, shared responsibility. Imagine this. A man who lost everything in Mecca, now sharing a home with someone he had never met before. This was not just kindness. This was a new way of living. Then he built something simple. A mosque, not a large building, not something beautiful or expensive, just a simple place. But it became the heart of the community, a place to pray, a place to learn, a place to meet, a place to solve problems. It was more than a building. It was a foundation. But building a community is not easy. There were still many differences, many tensions. So Muhammad created an agreement, a system, something we now call the Constitution of Medina. This document brought people together, Muslims, Jewish tribes, different groups, each with their own beliefs, their own traditions. But now they agreed to live together, to protect each other, to respect each other. Think about that. In a world full of division, this was unity. But peace did not last long. The leaders of Mecca were still angry, still threatened. They could not accept this new growing community. So conflict returned. There were battles. The first major one was the Battle of Badr. The Muslims were fewer in number, less equipped, but they won. It was unexpected, a moment that gave them confidence, hope, strength. But not every moment was victory. Another battle followed, the Battle of Uhud. This time they made mistakes. Some left their positions. Some did not follow instructions. And the result was painful. They lost. Many were injured. It was a hard lesson. A reminder that discipline matters, that unity matters, that success is not guaranteed. Years passed. The community grew stronger, more stable, more confident. And then came a moment no one could have imagined before. Muhammad returned to Mecca, but not as a victim, not in fear. He returned with strength, with followers, with power. People expected revenge. After everything that had happened, the pain, the loss, the years of suffering, revenge would have been easy. But that is not what happened. Instead, He chose something greater. Forgiveness. He forgave the people of Mecca, even those who had hurt him, even those who had tried to kill him. Think about that. What kind of leader does that? He entered the city peacefully. Then he went to the Kaaba, the same place that once held hundreds of idols. One by one they were removed. The Kaaba was returned to the worship of one God, not with violence, not with hatred, but with calm, with purpose, with clarity. This was more than a victory. It was transformation, a new system, a new belief, a new way of living. From a small group in fear to a strong community built on faith, discipline, and unity. And yet, the story was still not finished. After years of struggle, after years of building, after years of patience, the message of Islam had spread across Arabia. The man who once stood alone in a cave was now leading a united community. But his journey was coming to an end. In his final years, Muhammad focused on something deeper. Not expansion, not power, but guidance. He wanted to make sure that the message would live on, clearly, purely. Then came a very important moment, his final pilgrimage. Thousands of people gathered, from different tribes, different backgrounds, different lives, standing together. And there he gave his final sermon, a message that would echo through history. He spoke about equality. No Arab is better than a non-Arab. No white person is better than a black person. The only thing that matters is character. Righteousness. Think about that. In a world still divided by race, status, and power, these words were revolutionary. He also spoke about rights. Respect women. Care for others. Do not harm. Do not take what is not yours. He reminded people, you are responsible for your actions. You will return to God. This was not just a speech. It was a final reminder, a complete message. Soon after his health began to weaken, the man who carried so much was now becoming physically tired. At the age of 63, he passed away. The news spread quickly. People were shocked, heartbroken, confused. Some could not accept it. How could the man who changed everything be gone? In that moment, one man stood up, Abu Bakr, his close friend, his companion, and he said something powerful. If you worship Muhammad, then know that Muhammad has died. But if you worship God, then know that God is eternal. These words brought clarity, stability. They reminded people of something important. The message was never about one man. It was about something greater. And that message did not end. In fact, it began to grow even more. In the years that followed, the Islamic world expanded. Cities like Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba became centers of knowledge. Scholars studied mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy. They preserved ancient knowledge. They improved it. They shared it with the world. This period became known as the Islamic Golden Age. Think about that. From a quiet cave to a global civilization. From one voice to millions. And today, more than 1 billion people follow this faith. But beyond numbers, beyond history, beyond time, the story of Islam remains something deeper. A story of patience. A story of faith. A story of transformation. And it all began with one man searching for truth in silence. Now, take a moment and think about everything you have just heard. A child born without a father. A young boy growing up with loss. A man sitting alone in a cave, searching for truth. No army, no power, no plan to change the world. And yet that one voice changed history. From the deserts of Arabia to cities across the world, the message spread, not because of force, not because of wealth, but because of belief, patience, consistency. Think about that. What can one person do with clarity, with purpose, with discipline? This is not just a story about the past. It is a lesson A reminder that change does not always begin with power. Sometimes it begins in silence. Sometimes it begins with one question. Sometimes it begins with one voice. And now, let's bring this back to you. You are here listening, learning, not just words, but meaning. You are training your mind to understand English through something real, not random sentences, not boring exercises, but a story that matters. This is how language becomes natural. You don't force it. You absorb it. You live inside it. So as you continue your journey, remember this. Every word you understand, every sentence you follow, every idea you connect with is a step forward. A small step, but a real one. And just like this story, progress does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, consistently. So keep going, keep listening, keep learning. Because one day, without even realizing it, you will understand more, speak more, express more, and it will feel natural. Just like this story now feels clear to you. This is the power of learning through stories. And this is only the beginning. If you choose to learn this way through depth, through meaning, through stories that actually matter, then stay here. Subscribe not for entertainment, but as a commitment to better thinking, better focus, better English, and I'll see you in the next story.